Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something truly massive. We are setting the stage to explore an absolutely epic 11,000-year historical account of the Indian subcontinent. Based on our source material, we're going to trace the sweeping arc of a civilization's rise, its dramatic fall, and its incredible, almost unbelievable rebirth. I mean, this isn't just a simple timeline, it's a profound story of human resilience, literally going from the very first mud bricks to the absolute cutting edge of space exploration. All right, so here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to cover 5 main eras. 1. Ancient glory and golden age. 2. Foreign invasions and decline. 3. Great resistance of braves. 4. British rule and freedom struggle. And finally, 5. The new rise of modern India. Let's get right into it.
Kicking things off with Section 1, Ancient Glory and the Golden Age.
We're anchoring this journey way back at 9000 BC. According to the text, in a place called Mehrgarh, which is in present-day Balochistan, humans were already leaving their nomadic roots behind. They were essentially becoming the world's first engineers and farmers. They were building organized homes with mud bricks, cultivating wheat and barley, you name it. But honestly, here was where it gets absolutely wild. Archaeological digs in Mehrgarh have actually uncovered human skulls showing teeth treated with fine stone drills. Yeah, you heard that right. 9,000-year-old dentistry. It perfectly illustrates the highly advanced practical knowledge that was already present at the very beginning of this timeline. I mean, way before the pyramids were even a thought. Things start moving incredibly fast from here. We rapidly bridge the gap from the mysterious ecological decline of the Indus Valley Civilization around 1900 BC right through the Vedic period's Iron Age. Then, we hit Alexander the Great meeting King Porus in 326 BC, which, according to the text, ultimately set the stage for the unified strength of the massive Mauryan Empire.
And this era, it literally defined the term Golden Age. Under the Mauryan and later the Gupta empires, Indian astronomy, mathematics, and administration became the absolute envy of the ancient world. Think about it. They conceptualized zero, discovered the Earth's rotation, engineered an iron pillar in Delhi that hasn't rusted in 1,600 years, and built Nalanda University, which was basically an ancient global hub housing 10,000 international students. Just staggering achievements.
Moving on to Section 2, Foreign Invasions and Decline. Now, the source text draws a really stark contrast for this era. On one hand, you had the mind-boggling wealth of indigenous empires like Vijayanagara, where diamonds and gems were reportedly just sold openly in the streets. But this immense wealth met devastating cultural destruction. Invaders looted sacred sites like the Somnath Temple, and they burned Nalanda University's vast library. The text actually states the library burned for 3 continuous months, resulting in this irreplaceable loss of ancient knowledge. The timeline then maps out centuries of conquerors that completely reshaped the subcontinent. From Muhammad bin Qasim in 712 AD to Mahmud of Ghazni, Muhammad Ghori, and finally Babur establishing the Mughal presence in 1526. But it's really important to note here, the historical record asserts that it wasn't just external military might that led to these conquests. It was frequently internal betrayals, a lack of unity among local kings that ultimately opened the gates. There's a highly emotive story from this era highlighted in the source about Emperor Prithviraj Chauhan. After being betrayed, captured, and blinded by Muhammad Ghori, Chauhan was guided by a very precise poetic metric spoken by his friend, the poet Chand Bardai. Basically, relying purely on the sound of Ghori's voice and these spoken distance measurements, the blinded emperor fired an arrow that struck his captor. The text frames this as a profoundly powerful act of defiance. Which brings us to Section 3, Great Resistance of Braves. It wasn't all just conquest, though. Against these expanding empires, fierce resistance movements kept the flame alive. The text highlights figures like Bapa Rawal, securing the borders and pushing invaders back. Then there's Maharana Pratap, who sacrificed royal comforts to wage a long, brutal guerrilla war from the Aravalli forests alongside indigenous Bhil tribes. And, of course, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, who rose from the Sahyadri Mountains to fight for Swaraj, or self-rule. But what's really fascinating about Shivaji Maharaj, according to the text, is that he didn't just wage war. He systematically built a highly organized state. He established a foundational naval force, actively promoted Sanskrit and local languages over Persian court languages, and instituted very strict military rules. Why? to ensure that farmers' crops were completely protected from his marching armies. He was building a nation, not just an army. All right, shifting gears to Section 4, British Rule and the Freedom Struggle. The source guides us through a pretty painful chronological arc here. It begins with the Battle of Plassey in 1757, which again was won through betrayal, specifically by Mir Jafar. It then moves to the massive Unified Uprising in 1857, covers brutal repressions like the 1919 Jallianwala Bagh massacre, and ultimately culminates in the hard-fought independence of 1947. But as the text notes, that independence arrived alongside the deep, lasting trauma of the partition. Now, the crucial takeaway from the source here is that there were two very distinct, contrasting ideological paths working simultaneously to push the British out. On one hand, you had Mahatma Gandhi's massive mobilization through nonviolence, truth, and economic boycotts. On the other hand, you had the fierce armed revolutionary struggle championed by young figures like Bhagat Singh and the highly organized military resistance of Subhash Chandra Bose. Give me blood, I will give you freedom. The text highlights this iconic call to arms by Subhash Chandra Bose. He firmly believed freedom had to be seized, not begged for. He formed the Indian National Army, and the source actually credits the resulting naval mutinies and military rebellions inspired by his movement as the final, decisive blow. It was the moment that forced the British to realize they simply could no longer hold the country. Finally, we reach Section 5, the new rise of modern India. Take a second and think about the number 562. The source explains that when the British left, they didn't leave a neatly unified country. Not at all. They left 562 fragmented princely states. It was the staggering, iron-willed effort of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel that successfully integrated every single one of these separate territories to forge the unified political map of modern India we know today. Fast forward a bit to 1971, and we hit another massive number. During the 1971 war, 93,000 enemy soldiers surrendered to India. The text emphasizes this as one of the largest military surrenders in global history. It was a defining moment, one that firmly established India's restored geopolitical and military strength on the world stage. The text paints this amazing picture of resurgence. It contrasts the incredibly humble beginnings of the Indian space program, where scientists quite literally transported their very first rocket parts on the backs of bicycles, with the fierce self-reliance of their successful nuclear tests at Pokhran. Today, that exact same drive has positioned the country at the forefront of the global digital and AI revolution. And that resilience brings us to the number 5. Despite being left completely, and I mean entirely, economically drained by colonial powers back in 1947, the country fought its way back over just a few short decades. Today, it stands as the 5th largest economy in the entire world. Talk about coming full circle, right? We started this journey with the 9,000 BC engineers of Mehrgarh building mud brick rooms. Cut to today, where modern Indian scientists, utilizing incredibly efficient, low-cost technology, made India the very first country in human history to successfully land the Chandrayaan rover on the moon's rugged South Pole. So, we're going to wrap up this explainer with a really thought-provoking question directly from our source. After surviving ecological collapses, massive foreign invasions, brutal colonialism, and literally rising from the ashes time and time again to reach the stars, what exactly will be this reborn civilization's next chapter? It is an epic tale of resilience for sure, and it absolutely leaves you deeply curious about what the future holds. Thanks for exploring this incredible timeline with us.